I was journaling, and at the time I thought it was more that it was silly code, but I don't know code, so that didn't be what it was. But I would just write down, something would come into my head, and I would write those numbers down, and then I'd try to put some explanation around it, but usually there wasn't one. By the time I got to the, maybe several days past the first time the first sequence came in, I began to feel things around it. I'll just use that word because I certainly don't think I knew things around it at that time. And I was staying at a friend's house in Tarpon Springs who had a very good friend who ran a recording studio. And so I called him, and I went down there, and he put me into the sound room with his technician, and he asked me, what do you want? I said, I need these numbers just need these numbers. He said, well, what are they? I said, they're just numbers. I don't know. He said, well, are they hertz? And I said, that sounds good. And so he began, because I had each segment has a number, and then underneath it has the timing to go to the next number, And then in the center peak, each one has a pause, and then it backs down again so that it overlaps and it repeats itself. And so he did that, and, I said, well, can you make it louder? He said no, because the numbers, of course, are subacoustic. They're below the level of human hearing, but humans can feel it. And so I said, well, can you turn it up just a tad? And so he did, not to audibly hear, but I could feel it as soon as he did that. And I said, ooh, turn it down a little bit more. And so we played with that. After that, every time I would go in to record the numbers, they'd have to do it with me in, because I knew where he would set the dB settings on it. When he sent me the first CD of it, it wasn't very long before we realized it had to have sound, because they were totally unusable for most people that way. I had another young man here in North Carolina who had a recording studio, and I went in and asked him to put some music to it, to put some sound to it. And that's how the first public CD got done. It was called Through the Illusion. And I used that a lot in the Quiet Miracle stuff, because that was something that was played in one of the VA hospitals here in Salisbury when I'd work with the PTSD guys. Big joke was they went to bed with me every night because they played it on their little recorders. But it was very relaxing. The first one was about hitting that parasympathetic balance, bringing the body into a different rhythm. The second one, we kept moving. What are these for? Bring you into resonance with the planet was the first one. Well, if you're in that about 7.83, it feels wonderful. And so it was very relaxing to listen to. And then I would be, the music would be playing, and I would be, talking to them. When the second one came in, by the time it came in, I was already, feeling I was out of my body a whole lot. So the second one was being able to move out of the planetary gravitational pull and yet be aware of where you were, so that you were always anchored or grounded into your body. Each one would give me more information about how the physiology actually interpreted and behaved to these different frequencies. What I wasn't completely aware of at first was that each sequence was designed in order to have overtones and undertones. So it never gives you one frequency. It gives you all of the frequencies above and below that particular sequence or number. And so there were so many things about that all of a sudden made sense. and made me begin to understand maybe this is what I'm supposed to do. And so that became pretty much what Quiet Miracles was about. This was a process that went on. I'll look at now, looking at the different sections of the, Quiet Miracles 777, 888, and 999, and some of it overlaps into each one of them all the time. They're just continuous because I think in the reality within the body, we hold everything. We hold everything. Once the vertical horizontal came into place, I began to understand how I was doing that in other sequences when I didn't have the intelligence to do it or the vocabulary to do it, but I was able to use those vector modes, the trivector concept of the human physiology, to move into different understandings and still be here in a physical form in practical time of man-made time, the clock, the historical linear time. So it was a learning process that took a lot of years. And as I look now, seeing, wow, 16 years since Lionsgate, when everything really just took off, and seeing now that coming full circle to that, and so many things have been resolved and so many solutions are out here. We just have to begin to talk about them in a way that isn't about this just fits one size. How do you operate this physical form that we were given to go from place to place and engage with human beings and others? How do we navigate it? I didn't come with a manual, and I'm not one that looks in the glove compartment unless I have a problem. It's been 30 years since I started these journals, and I'm just now looking at them. So see, if you'll take one thing away from this, go read your manual.